And we're back on the Thomas Hunt Show. Sorry about that. There had an internet interruption. We lost our network connection. But we're just going to pick off where we were and continue with the news. Talking about Trump being the center of attention, how much he likes that. He did so little to prepare and took so long to act that he's asking everyone to use the fatalities as if he did nothing as a baseline. It could be, we could use our baseline as if you did something like South Korea, something where they hardly have any deaths at all. Instead, Trump imagines there'll be a ticker tape parade if only 100,000 to 200,000 people die. Stephen Beschlaw says perhaps instead of a parade, there'll be more like a pair of handcuffs for negligent homicide.
Just very small handcuffs, from what I hear.
Aaron Rupar says we've arrived at the Trump touts unproven drugs as potential COVID-19 treatments part of the briefing. And I told you guys a long time ago, he just wants to make you feel good. He just wants to put the good announcements out. Even if he doesn't have any good announcements, he'll make them up. That might not make you feel good later on. You might feel this temporary good, like a short-term good, but in the long term, you'll go back to feeling bad. So it's a lot like maybe a piece of candy or something like that, where you have a short-term sugar high, and you're like, this is really good. Candy is the best thing ever. And later on, your teeth are rotting and you're getting diabetes and you're dying, and you're like, maybe candy's not the best things ever. Maybe I should eat something more nutritious. Trump says he watches the shows at night and he likes military guests. Again, you just can't make it up. This is the coronavirus press briefing. This is a pretty serious time, not a time to talk about television shows. They all say he's reverting to form, that the press conference has shifted now. It started out really good and somber and serious, but now he's back to himself, right? Again, he repeats that we could have done more if we'd started earlier. And he says, what a great job he did closing off China, back to China. Many people couldn't believe he did something so amazing. Scott Kleinberg asks, who are these people? Who are they? Keeping it rolling here, he says, states struggling to get critical supplies. The New York governor said, it's like being on eBay with 50 other states bidding against you for a ventilator. Trump doesn't even answer the question, says, if they need them that badly, some people think they don't need them. So the question is, why is the national government not doing their job, not stepping in, not acting as one, right? Instead of 50 people bidding on this, and we've all been on eBay, right? Dan, what happens when there's 50 other bidders? Do you get the best price?
Sharks.
Price goes up, right?
Best price goes up. You get someone that pumps in at the last minute, which will probably be Trump.
Sure, and they've said that actually. There's a lot of cases where the states thought they had a deal, then the national government came in and stole the bid from them. So why are our 50 states competing with the national government? Why isn't the national government just bidding on things, less bidders, better chance of getting it? Who's going to bid against the U.S. government, right? I mean, they have nukes. So I read that one person bidding it, then you just send it around, right? That's what they did during the war, right? I remember during World War II, and we said, Tennessee, if you don't produce enough tanks, we're going to let you fall to the Nazis, right? They said Kentucky's producing a lot of tanks, Tennessee not so many. Maybe we just let Tennessee fall. But instead, we actually used all the tanks from all the states together. We didn't just separate. Only the California tanks fought in Germany, or we keep the California tanks in France, but the New York tanks in Germany. No, we just called them all United States tanks, right? They were all, the government and the military, it's amazing to think about that, managed all the tanks themselves. We didn't have the individual states bidding on how to build tanks. That's amazing. I can't believe we managed that in the 1940s. Gosh, almost.
Did you hear that? In fact, I think you might have liked the tweet as well. But there was a lady who was mentioning that I think it was either her mum or dad, one of her parents, that's building a quad ventilator.
I
saw
that.
It sounds like such a good idea. Yes, surely, in fact, that you why not have pipes, like just loads of not decentralized, but like a thin client where you have one just giant thing, and then you have sub pipes coming off it. They could be, I don't know, maybe I think there's a lot more.
They definitely did that,
innovation.
And during 2017, after the Las Vegas shooting, they had so many people they needed to intubate because they had so many victims here that they actually split the ventilators into twos, and they were ventilating 2 people on each ventilator. And I'm not sure it had really been done before. It was a theoretical idea before then. They really had to use it in 2017. We're seeing the same things now, but like you said, Dan, they did approve that 4-way splitter. The FDA, it was officially approved. It worked. I assume it's less pressure, but it must be such an amazing splitter that it somehow makes up for that, or is a negligible loss that it could maintain that. Certainly, we need to crank those out. We might need to 3D print them. All kinds of other things as well. But let's just try to keep going here. But yeah, I'd love to see more of those 4-way splitters. That could really help the ventilate problem. It might be too futuristic, though. I'm not sure if they're ready. It seemed like they'd just gotten approved. I don't know that they were really mass manufacturing yet. In my, again, naivety, I kind of hoped they'd maybe open source the plan and we could all 3D print them and we could get those quad ventilator things out. But I don't know how complicated their system is, if it's possible to be 3D printed, and I don't know how difficult it is for them to manufacture it as well. But
best opportunity to make money when the whole world needs something as well. So it's a sad state of affairs. I think a medicine should be the thing that should be, moving to be open sourced as much as possible. It's like, it's the most obvious thing. Medicine, food, any of the necessities, we should be moving towards open source.
I think we're going to continue to see more and more people saying that, and a big movement going that way in the future, especially with preparedness and plans, things like this that we used to pay no attention to. How many ventilators are in the national ventilator stockpile? Nobody knows. Maybe in the future, we're going to pay closer attention. Maybe we're going to know that. Jared Yates Sexton writes, "What a grotesque thing. What a damning, horrific, grotesque thing this is. Trump failed to protect America, put his political fortunes and personal profits ahead of the lives of every single American. Now 100,000 to 250,000, maybe more, will die agonizing, lonely deaths." So yes, we talked about this a lot as a possibility once Trump was elected, that there'd be a war, or there'd be a disaster, there'd be something outside of his control, something that he couldn't just wish or talk away. And now we're here, and it's awful. I mean, it's no more awful that you saw it coming. It doesn't make it any better. Again, with the biggest decision was stopping travel. Jon Favreau, it's not the movie director, it's Jon Favreau, the former speechwriter for President Obama, says there would be projections of 100,000 to 200,000. There wouldn't be projections of 100,000 to 240,000 dead if Donald Trump's administration had taken the January-February's warning and implemented mass testing earlier. He bears direct responsibility for the human tragedy that's about to unfold. And that's another thing that people aren't really seeing. We're still on this side of the 100,000 to 200,000 dead. We're on the fun talking side. It's just theoretical right now. We can't say your aunt's dead, your teacher's dead, your coworker's dead. But sadly, as these weeks and days roll forward, and I hope it changes. I hope there's some kind of miracle and the virus stops and we cure it and we use hydrochlorine and whatever else you guys want to use. We cure the heck out of it. We use the quad ventilators. We helicopter in more ventilators. Everything works out fine and no one dies. That's what I hope. But if it doesn't, and if it goes the way they're telling us, it's just going to weigh on people. And it's fun to joke about right now and be like, oh, it's nothing. Like, I like Trump. It's fun. It's fun that he killed 200,000 people. It's fun that he killed more people than all the wars since World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, all the wars, right? You add the numbers together, it's around 200, 220,000 since World War II. Obviously, World War II much bigger. But, goals, future goals. But yeah, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be funny. It's going to roll through. And that's what's been kind of so horrifying this last month or two is mentally, I knew this was a possibility and I hoped that we would avoid it. And seeing day after day, no steps taken, these empty speeches. I remember hearing the empty speeches, and every time I heard that speech back in February, back in March, every time I heard those speeches, I was like, I got to go to Costco. I got to get more stuff. Like, it was not reassuring to me. It was scary, right? And then I did go.
I'm surprised
Costco.
We kept you away. You were like, every day there was like, is it time just yet? Is it time just to go to Costco?
No, I was right. It was time. It was time, we should have went a lot more. And then even now, I mean, we have a good amount of supplies, but someday you're going to have to go out. You're going to have to get more supplies. And this is the future. And this is where we left ourselves because we blinded ourselves. We didn't get testing. We didn't activate the testing plan. We didn't activate anything fast enough. We didn't prepare. We didn't prepare when we knew it was a problem in January, February. We didn't prepare last year or 5 years ago when it was a theoretical problem, when Bill Gates and President Obama and other people were warning us about pandemics, and they were having all the TED Talks and everything. And now we're right in it. Now we're right in the grindy part. This is the part where the people get ground up and turned into those bodies that we saw in the trucks earlier. So it's fun. You guys can be flippant and everything, but eventually this will come to you. Even the president allegedly has a friend who's been stricken by the coronavirus, and it seems like it's making him take it more seriously. I think Boris Johnson started taking this more seriously when he went down. But we'll just see. He also stopped all of Europe. Drink, if that'll help you forget the 100,000 dead. He was asked what the models looked like if we had adopted social distancing earlier when China or South Korea did. He dodges the question and talks about his move to restrict travel. That's all he's got. He's got the restricting travel to China, the restricting travel to India. He didn't do anything else, and he had more information than you did. You have hardly any information at all. He has lots of information. Dr. Fauci, during the briefing, admitted that if the Trump administration had not fumbled the ball so badly on testing, many fewer Americans would die from coronavirus. And that's what this is about. It's not about 100% or 0%. It's about less. Less would have died if he had done more. Trump, Birch, Fauci, and Pence evade the question, change the subject, looking totally guilty while doing so because the truth is so painful. These are humans too, and they know that unless things get better in the next couple of days, they're going to be responsible in some way for this horrific and horrendous loss of life. So even now, they're feeling it before it's happened. It's affecting them. And that's good. They're human. It should affect them. It's just also unfortunate that their actions are a part of this. He talked about the guests on different shows. That's fine. His response to why he wasted weeks dithering and downplaying the coronavirus is to tout travel restrictions over and over. However, the virus was already spreading in the U.S., so why didn't you do more? If you knew it was a big enough threat to cut off travel, why didn't you do more? It's a pretty simple question. And minutes after telling the country that upwards of 250,000 Americans could die, he began again blaming the Democrats for impeaching him. As Jared Yates Sexton says, listen, he's an authoritarian backed into a corner. He's going to blame anyone, build murderous anger, and put more lives at stake. It's a bad time to have a leader like this, a leader that can't admit fault, a leader that can't apologize, a leader that doesn't seem to have any emotions. It's pretty strange. A Daily Show bit, he's talking about how hospitals need more. He says, did the impeachment distract him from the coronavirus? I guess it probably did. However, he was acquitted on February 5th, then spent the next month downplaying the virus. So it doesn't really work out on the timeline if you go back and think about time. He has nothing else to do. Should we keep the news conference going? There's a little bit of levity. That's fun, right? We say the same. He's talking about governors who criticize him. You give to some and you give to some, and some people it's never enough. So he's downplaying the governors who are requesting emergency supplies from him during a crisis. People are dying, as Jared Yates Sexton says. This man is a monster, a monster. He declined to address the substance of Cuomo's criticism of the ventilator acquisition process. Instead, says that Cuomo is a complainer and should appreciate what his state has been given. Congratulations to the pundits who lauded Trump's new and somber tone 30 minutes ago when he was talking about the 100,000 dead. Now he's attacking Comey and McCabe like old times and criticizing Cuomo for asking for the medical supplies he needs to save lives. So yes, it was a short-lived positive press conference, or somber press conference. Then it fell like everything else. It fell straight apart. James McLeod writes, has Trump briefing really been going for an hour and 40 minutes? That's another thing he loves about these. He loves to turn them into campaign rallies and just to go and go and go, where, as we talked about before, the goal for these briefings should be just the facts, ma'am. It should take 15 to 30 minutes, shouldn't waste your whole day. And when you're done watching it, you should feel like the government is very competent and very in control, that they had, this is what happened yesterday, this is what happened today, this is what we're doing tomorrow, this is our plan. That's not how you feel after you watch these things. You don't feel more confident in the government. Tara writes pretty much the same thing. It's supposed to be a press conference preparing the American people for potentially 100,000 deaths, which is going to affect you no matter where you are. You're having fun right now. Somebody that you know is going to die from this thing. Somebody that you know. Says the problem is with some people, no matter what you give them, it's never enough. He's blaming the states for asking for medical supplies. Do you ever run out of questions? He jokes. And I think this is one of the most important parts of the press conference. Trump pretty much said what I've been saying about Trump this whole time. This is a direct quote. I'm not about bad news. I want to give people hope. And that's a positive attribute, right? As a salesman, as a showman, as a reality show star, as a real estate man, this is what his business is about. It's about hope. And this is what he's been doing his whole life. When they're going to build a new hotel, he says that it's very exciting and it's coming soon. It's going to be the biggest hotel in the world, like Moscow Trump Tower. It's not there anymore. The Taj Mahal, it never happened. The Taj Mahal in Atlantic City is the greatest casino in the world, but it's closed. But it's better to say it's the greatest casino in the world because that's part of being a showman, and that's what he does. Unfortunately, during this sad time right now, there is no good news. So when you give people false good news, you give them false hope. So it's not the same thing as real hope. It's hollowed out. It's empty inside. If I tell you about a cure, you find out a few days later it's not a cure, you had a few days of hope, but it was false hope. So I hope we get back to having actual good news, so he can give people good news and you can be satisfied. Like when he gave you the good news about the stock market, and he bragged and he bragged and he bragged about how good the stock market was and how good your 401k is doing. I hope we get back to that.
Is that a pension, is it? The US is 401k. Is that what is it a pension?
No. A pension is actually guaranteed money. A pension's more like the company saves some money for you. They set it aside. They give you part of it.
I know
so
what a pension is.
Pension,
I work in a pensions company, but is a 401k? I thought so what's a 401k?
So a 401k is a bunch of stocks and mutual funds. So instead of a pension where the company has made a deal with you, you worked at General Motors for 50 years. They're going to take care of you for 20 years, right? That's a pension. It's a deal.
Yeah.
And if you pass early, they get a good deal, right? They don't have to pay, or maybe they have to pay your next of kin or something. So that's a pension. Now the other one, a 401k, that's a stock market account. we give you a little bit of money every year, and you get to play the markets. So maybe you get to retire, maybe you don't. And this horrible coronavirus crisis, dropping the stock market from 29,000 to 19,000, back up to around 21, 22,000 today, has just wiped out a lot of people's accounts. And there's a hope that it comes back, right? A lot of people are probably just holding on to their retirement accounts and such, just hoping the economy comes back. But if it doesn't come back, there's no backup plan. There's no way for these people to retire. They're losers. That's why people argued against this, right? There's two sides to this. The free market enterprise guy said, put your money in the market. The market only goes up. You're going to make money. You'll be fine. Buy mutual funds, buy these large spread out things, right? Oh, you own a bunch of different companies. You don't just own one. The problem is we just had a total market crash. So if you had a mutual fund with, like, say, the Dow Jones, the top 30 companies or 20 companies in the business, you think you're going to be fine, but they all crashed. So everyone's account just crashed. So everything that they ever warned about not turning your pension into a 401k just went wrong. We're still in that pre-period where they think it's coming back and they think it's going to be fine. But if we get to the other side of this, what we're going to need, and again, it's the question of old people dying on the streets again, is we're going to need an enhanced Social Security. We're going to need something bigger to take care of all these people who previously were given company retirement accounts that are now worthless. And we had a similar plan under W. Bush. They wanted to take your health care, which right now health care is more like a pension. You get paid a certain amount. You get a certain amount of benefits in the system. They wanted to put your health care into something really great called a health savings account. And the health savings account would be invested into these same mutual funds and stocks. So right now, in addition to your pension, if only they'd switched over the healthcare system, you could have also lost all of your healthcare. So it's pretty, it's a good system when the market's going up. It's a very, 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 very bad system when the market's going down. And part of our system is that it's not designed for the market to go down. The market's only supposed to go up. So yeah, a lot of people just lost their pensions, but we call them 401ks. So disaster.
Yeah, it's sad. I did get a letter, I think it was from Hargreaves Lansdown in about January 2017, and it was just before I was being made redundant. So I was like, money's not going to be a problem for a while. It was an all right payout. And I thought, and I was this close, and I even filled in the forms, and it was going to be Bitcoin at the time was about $700-800. It was savagely low. And I've almost filled out the form to transfer everything over from my current company pension and whack it all on Bitcoin. Unfortunately, being an idiot and lazy, I lost the form and then just didn't bother doing it. And, so I was kicking myself. But actually, my pension spread over, loads of different pots from like, I don't know, Japan Equity, Framlington Biotech, which I think biotech's not doing too bad. Hopefully pharmaceuticals kind of doing okay, but it's better than being all in cash. But I literally, again, about a week before in fact, it was like a couple of days before Zero Hedge called the top by being banned from Twitter. But like when everything was just like, whoosh, and I said, right, Carrie, this is crazy. My girlfriend, I was like, I'm selling everything, put it all into cash. There's like no way we're not going to drop now. This is before I'd even realized the severity of like coronavirus and being that worldwide and panic driven and stuff. But I didn't do it. So, and I wish I did, because then I would have saved like a shed load that just got shaved off of my pension.
A lot of the problem there is the all or nothing idea. You just can't do it with 100% of your money. Like it's just too much. Like it was too stressful to do then, and it was too much of a risk. If you do 30% or 10%, you might be able to make that move. So I know a long time ago, before all this started, I was worried about a potential bear market in the stock market, that we had a 10-year bull market and everyone's saying, okay, now we're going to have a bear market. So it's going to go down. So I'd actually trimmed my little itty bitty retirement portfolio, and I went about 60-70% cash. So that was tough because the market did go up after that, but then after it went down. So that was, good to okay. So you can get ahead of it. Obviously, I didn't get 100% out. I was still taking hits, and I should have seen it as a total crash and gotten the heck out of the way, but I didn't. But I did get some of it out. And I think that if you start thinking in percentages, you can start making smaller moves, and then you're never going to be perfect. But you could be just a little bit better. So that's.
And it's not such a big commitment. The fact is that because I made it, it's an all-out. I'm pulling everything into cash. It was do I? Whereas if I'd have just been like, oh, screw it, I'm going to put 10%, 10%. Was it Charlie Lee or Fluffy Pony that they're kind of, this probably isn't going to apply for a long while, because I don't think there's going to be a moon soon for maybe for alts. It seems like that dream is drifting. Not that you should be into alts. It's for high risk people. But yeah, there's the advice is whenever something hits, I think it was 5 or 10%. All time high, take 5% off and just go. That's it, 5% bagged. That's in the bank of Bitcoin in my pocket, not the actual bank. And then at least you've got that wedge. And if it pumps another 100%, you're like, oh wow, screw it. If I took 5% out, I've now got a shed load more, but I've had that cash. Whereas like the worst thing you want to be doing is being caught with your pants down and like everything crumbling around you, the walls of the toilet crumbling around you, and you're just sat there with your pants down, and the Bitcoin prices crashed, the altcoins prices have crashed, the walls aren't there anymore, and people can see you nude and vulnerable on a toilet.
It sounds like you just became a hodler of last resort. What was that guy? What was that guy that used to say that? There was that guy who's around all the time used to say that. But yeah, the other good rule of thumb, I don't know if we'll see an all-time high for a while, but that is a good rule at the tops. Another good rule is if 10% would change your life, you should sell the 10%. So if 10% would help you pay off your credit cards, or have a little money for 6 months, or buy you something really good that would improve your work, some kind of really good tool that you normally wouldn't buy, sell it, do the 10%. And I know that goes against the hodl forever and all these kind of things, but I think hodl forever is another one of these shortcuts to thinking. You need to think. You have to analyze your position. Hodling is good. I like Bitcoin long term, but 100% of anything's not that good. You want to be more 90%, 50%. You want to have options. If you're just 100%, you could win, but you could also lose horribly. So you want to think about that too.
And you don't want to, whilst you've got cash, it's good having cash, and it's much better to look back on something and say, I lost a little bit of that profit rather than I have nothing. So I know a lot of people that basically kept everything in fiat during the entire, drop from 17K, in crypto, from 17K down to what was eventually 3.5, and used all their fiat money during that time, and had to sell Bitcoin at the bottom. And then you're like, and then there's that there. I say, okay, it was me. There's no friend. It was me. Fuck you.
Oh, it happens to all of us, Dan. It happened to all of us, man. We all did.
Pumps again. We're all saying there. Just be sensible. Just imagine you're giving the advice to your friend. Imagine someone said, like, your friend says, oh, I've got this Bitcoin. It's got $19,500, and I bought it not a lot. But and you'd be like, whoa, don't be a total idiot. So just a little bit. And they'd be like, no, I think it's gonna. And you'd be like, no, come on, let's bring you down to earth, reduce your risk, take a bit of profit, and you'll be happy. And then they'll be thanking you later. Whereas with yourself, you're like, you give yourself less of a hard time, I think, than you.
Well, and I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's all hindsight here, but maybe someday if we're ever up again. I don't know. But someday when we're up again and you're sitting there, like Dan's saying, you've got a ridiculous amount of profit, but you think the profit's just going to keep coming in because you think Bitcoin's the greatest thing ever and it's going to $1 million a coin. And everyone's going to wake up just like you did and realize how great it is and all of that, right? Which gets right in your head and blinds you. I think a good idea, of course, I didn't do this. We're always what we would do in hindsight and everything, but a good idea, like Dan's saying, is to write down on a piece of paper, like Dan's saying, how much did you invest? How much, you put this much in, it's been this many of years. What do you have now? How much do you think you really have? And maybe, you have a bunch of altcoins that are crazy valuable, or you have Bitcoin's crazy value, whatever it is. How much, profit do you have? And then to give that, like you're saying, to kind of your best friend or someone who's, an opinion you trust. Maybe your mentor at school, that old man who always seems to have all the advice. Oh, shit, he died in the coronavirus. So you talk to a younger guy. Try to talk to a younger guy. Maybe he still has some experience.
With less conditions.
Less experience and less pre-existing conditions, yeah. A young, thin guy. So you talk to your young, thin friend and just let him analyze, like Dan was saying, like, what would you do, if you had made this investment? And then this gives you a chance to step back and to get another person's perspective from it. And he doesn't have all this hodl forever, Bitcoin goes to the moon stuff that's in your head probably. And maybe he does. Maybe all your friends do. Maybe you don't have anyone else you can consult with. But anyway, you give him this and he looks at it. And what I'm hoping is he'll say, yeah, to sell 10, 20% to like get a little taste out of there so that just in case things go to shit, you could still buy a van and go live in it down by the river. Because wouldn't it be a shame if you went from having all this, stuff to not even having a van to live in by the river? So, yeah, I think that would be good advice for next time, if there is a next time, and all that.
See, the problem is, even if you hand off, as it were, some of the responsibility of making that decision, it may not always work. And I do think that there's actually something that's inherently viral about Bitcoin in a psychological way, that as soon as you have it, it's not just a case of you hodl it because you've heard of the word hodl or whatever, and it's on my cap, but there's just something physical about the non-physicality of anyway. So the reason why I'm saying this is because back in the day, the one thing of foresight Clever Dan did in mid-December 2017, send my girlfriend a Bitcoin so that she could cash it out, and then that's it. We would use that for cash moving forward. And I completely forgot about it because obviously everything went nuts up until about January 18th, and money had no value anymore. It literally was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Very short-lived. Anyway, so when I had no money, which was less than a month later, I was like, yeah, okay, where's the cash from the Bitcoin you sold? She was like, I didn't sell it. I thought it was best if I keep hold of it. And I was like, no, you're meant to sell it. It's like 70% down. No. So even if you take someone who you think is sane and responsible, you give them Bitcoin, they turn into the, what do you call it guy, the ring, what's it? Yeah,
Gollum.
And they're like, Gollum, that's it. And they're like, I can't sell it just yet. Just hold it for a while.
I agree. And I had the same kind of thing with my brother where one of us could have sold and then the other could have held Bitcoin. But instead, we both held Bitcoin. I was like, oh, you idiots. Like, moron. Like, ah. But again, it was this, everyone thought it was just going up more. Everyone just thought they were like 32, 64, 128. And you're like, oh my gosh, 64. At that level, I could sell, this thing and it would pay off all my debts and all my things. And then it goes the other way. And you're like, I could sell twice as much and pay off my debts. I could sell 4 times as much. I could sell 8 times. And it's like, yeah, it just got worse and worse and worse. So
yeah, why sell Bitcoin now? Why sell like a whole Bitcoin now where I only need to sell 0.001 Bitcoin later to live for the rest of my life? I mean, what's the point? It's just so I'm just going to hold it.
That was it. That's the virus that all got in our heads, and and it'll come again and it'll go again, and we'll see. And different people have different positions and such. So. You want to go back to the news, Dan? Can you stand it? Can anyone stand it? I don't know if anyone can stand it anymore. Okay, so we're getting to the end, though. Here we go. He stopped China. He stopped Europe. Drink again. He stopped Italy. MSNBC threw in the towel. They cut away from the press conference. The president was still speaking. They said in the little information introduction, they said, "We got a great deal of information and other statements." That was good. Visa Alcindor, another quote, she says, Trump says, "I want to give people hope. I could be very negative. I want to be positive. I don't want to be negative. I'm a positive person." And this is for all you guys who are like, how does Thomas know that Trump wants to be positive? How does he know all this? Because he says it all the time, guys. If you've ever read anything he's ever read, if you've ever read anything about him, like, his personality comes clear. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I read all the Trump books, you know, Fire and Fury, Russian Roulette. I read
The Hungry Caterpillar.
Yeah, all of them. You know, Comey's book. I read what's her name, the reality show winner's book.
Jerry Springer.
No, Yolanda or something like that. But I read her book too. I read them all. So, and I'm gonna read the rest too. They're incredibly fascinating. History written in the moment, given to these journalists, behind the scenes, all the little conversations, all the little things you always wanted to know. Definitely check them out, especially if you're a Trump fan. I mean, you want to know more about the exciting things that are going on behind the scenes. Imagine there are books out there and you didn't read them. Whew, it would be like walking into a battle without a gun. I mean, you'd be unarmed. You wouldn't have any information. You'd be like, wow, I would read those books. That's what I'd do. If I wanted to know more, I would read the books. Did it lull Americans into a false sense of security when he said it was going away? He said, well, it is going to go away, hopefully at the end of the month. And if not, hopefully soon after that. So even after you talk about not giving false hope and not, you know, giving out this positive news and going back to that, he goes right back to it. He's got nothing else. It's an empty box. He said from the beginning, he knew thousands could die, but wanted to be positive. So that's why he downplayed the virus. I knew it could be horrible. I knew it could be maybe good. So that's pretty strange. And again, this is all going to come up in the trial. This is all going to be in all their books. Anybody who disagreed with this decision is going to write a book, right? We're going to get all their books. We're going to get all their notes. You know, they're going to have all their little journal entries they wrote in the time period. It's okay. You guys can wait. We'll talk about this again when I get the books, which I will.
Will you have time to read them all, though? Because I've got a feeling there seems to be one or two people that don't like Trump. Even if that's 5 people that don't like Trump and write a book.
Well, I'm talking about the people that work.
To be reading.
These are the people that work there. They liked him. They
were the insiders.
Yeah. This is going to be all the, like, you know, attorney generals and all the different people that were in these meetings. Dr. Fauci, he's going to write a book. We'll read the Fauci book. Going to read the Birx book. You can just look around the Pence. Pence is going to have to write a book at some point, probably after the president goes. Pence will be unchained at that point. Maybe.
Pence unchained.
Maybe. But we'll see.
Unchained.
So yes, it's about the positivity. We're finally getting to it. He downplayed the virus because he wanted to be positive, which is what I've been telling you guys for days. You've been up here doubting me. How does Thomas know what the president thinks? It's amazing. It's almost as if by reading about him and looking at his past decisions, you could learn something about the man. My goodness. Actually, it's pretty funny. I actually have some right here. I read them all on Kindle, but later on I got like an eBay set or something. So we just got 3 right here just to show you guys. Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House. That's a good one. We've got James Comey, A Higher Loyalty, right here. That's a good one. Russian Roulette. Can't beat that. Check that out right there. So yeah, we got some books. It's amazing. They put words in them. So yeah, he doesn't want to be negative. Chris Hayes, a newscaster, writes in, he will not change and is fundamentally incapable of doing the job. That's the story. I know it's fun to watch the bouncing ball, but it doesn't change. That's it. And this really does seem what we're getting back to. He's just not right for this job. And Calvin Coolidge, same thing, 100 years ago. Great businessman, looked good in a suit, had a couple of good lines. Do you want a good line about Calvin Coolidge, Dan? You want some like positive history story? Let's get off the topic a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so
a positive line.
Calvin Coolidge was known as Cool Cal. He didn't talk a lot. He wasn't a verbose guy. He was more of a laid-back, wait for his moment, say something smart kind of guy. So they had a big, political event. They're out there. He's giving speeches, shaking hands, and he comes up to this lady, and the lady says, Mr. President, Mr. Coolidge, I made a bet with my friend that you'll say more than 2 words to me. And Mr. Coolidge looks in her eye, and he says, bad bet. Classic Coolidge. Bad bet.
bad bet.
He said 2 words. He wouldn't say more. He was a man of not very many words, Calvin Coolidge. Here's a
I think there's many people that would like that of me because I'm very bad at condensing down into small words. But and I kind of so this is I see myself, unfortunately, I and this isn't not an admiring thing, but I've kind of got a bit of a Trump thing where I tend to waffle, and then I could really condense it down. I do a lot of the extra stuff, and yeah, one thing I've always been trying to do is try and refine what I need to say into a short few sentences, a few words, and I've just demonstrated that into how long it's taken me to say I talk too much.
Well, you know, Oscar Wilde said that brevity is the soul of wit, and also my favorite movie, State and Maine. I had another quote ready. Damn it, was. When they were saying that someone was a liar, what they would say is they say he has a gift for fiction. He has a gift for fiction. So, yes, you have a gift for being verbose, Stan. I wouldn't worry about it. But it's something we can work on. Just work on, train of thought and thinking it through. We've got a Las Vegas related story right here. Another Resorts World construction worker has tested positive for coronavirus. A second worker on the Resorts World Las Vegas construction site has tested positive for COVID-19, according to a Resorts World statement. For those of you who don't know, construction is continuing, both in California and Nevada, perhaps even in other states that are on lockdown. One of the essential jobs is construction, and perhaps with good reason. If we look at this picture right here, you can see Resorts World is the red one in the front. This blue one over here to the right, that's called the Drew, or the Fontainebleau, and it's been empty since 2008. This is a 12-year derelict casino, and one of the things that they're worried about this casino is that they didn't really finish building it. So if you don't finish building it, some of the structural membranes, the steel, could still be exposed. And if the steel is exposed to the weather and the weather damaged the steel, eventually the building could have a structural failure. It could fall over. Like a real building falls over, not like on Tuesday. But Resorts World is still constructing here, but now has a second case. So I'm not sure if construction is going to be able to keep going, yet at the same time, we have to shore up these buildings. We have to finish them. We have a project in the neighborhood here. They're changing a park, right? They need to put in grass. This is the only time you can plant grass. If they don't get the grass in, you have to wait another year. So it's interesting to see coronavirus versus actually having to do this thing, like having to complete the construction, having to be a grocery worker, having to restock the shelves. Some things are still going, but I don't know for how much longer, because clearly if you're working on a massive hotel complex here, you are near other people. They are coughing. I wonder, and I'm horrified at this, but I'll bet that the construction workers were not wearing masks. I can tell you the guys we have here in the neighborhood, they're outside, they're gardeners, they're probably okay, they're spaced out. But at the same time, if you were in a hotel being built, it's a lot different than being outside being a gardener. So yeah, it's not a good.
But surely the hotel wouldn't be that densely populated that they, as in filled with workers, that they wouldn't be able to work in a kind of slightly spread out environment.
It's a tough question. I don't know that much about direct experience of building high rises, but I imagine people are working in teams. I don't know that there's that much you could do as an individual. I mean, it'd be good to space them out, but I mean, you'd want your guy there holding the cable or whatever, or manning the safety, or I mean, there's a lot of teamwork is really valuable, and it does look like a lot of the presumably more dangerous parts of this construction are done. Hopefully they're working on the inside. But I would wonder if they'd want to continue. Like, obviously at a certain point, they're going to be, decorating these rooms. They're going to be doing more minor, non-threatening construction work. But at the same time, is that essential? We want to open the casino on time. We want to make sure the building's structurally sound. Yep. Do we really want to risk people's lives decorating rooms so that they can make money? And it's pretty questionable. I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to keep doing construction. Obviously, outdoor construction, road work is a little more sensible. You could space people out. They could breathe into the air. But internal construction like this, it might be too dangerous. And especially, this is a big complex here. I've heard of a lot of more normal construction going on, say in San Francisco, on a small apartment or on someone's house. You're almost definitely going to be working right next to or on top of somebody in that kind of environment. So it is an interesting thing to think about the construction workers.
Yeah, definitely. And I was thinking actually that this is a perfect time though, realistically, to certainly for outside stuff to be like fixing stuff, roadworks, that sort of thing. It's perfect time when there's low volumes to have people sporadically placed where they're not in each other's pockets, they're at safe distances, and to fix some of the holes. One of the most amazing things this is absolutely amazing, Thomas. I went to America to see you, and they had these roads. They were flat. We don't get those in the UK. They've got holes and stuff. But the most incredible thing is that where there were things that I think globally known as like, traffic cones, in America, there were people there working. Now, I don't think I've ever seen anyone working in the roadwork area. Literally, it's so insane. It's honestly, the first thing you'll see when you drive is like, and it's crazy.
It just looks abandoned, like they've put up the cones and then they've left.
That's it, gone. That's it. So now is the best time to be out there, 3 meters apart, with your N95, not the old Nokia phone, N95 mask, and just be, digging away. Do you know what they did in the UK? So there were people that were so pissed off with potholes. The only way the council would do something about them is if they people would literally draw a cock around it. Because if you draw a cock around it, the council goes, oh! And all the prudes, they come running and like little minions, they then, fix the pothole. So they're not worried about danger. But if you see a drawn penis with some chalk, or even worse, with a spray can, then that's it. So yeah,
that would be great. I heard about
that's one construction I want to see.
I've heard about a crew in the Netherlands, I think it was, where their job was to drive around all these country roads and basically, like you're saying, not fix the road, but fix the places where people have drawn penises, because that's what's really important, is that there not be any drawn penises on the road. Another interesting story you might like is that when Howard Stern, famous radio personality, ran for governor, and this was one of the first big prototypes for this kind of reality show politician thing, one of the things Stern famously did is refuse to give up his tax returns. He actually dropped out of the race to continue this, but he didn't run because he didn't want to give up his tax returns. But one of his planks for his platform was that all road work should be done at night. Stern has to commute to the city. He hates road work. He was just against it. His other things were more about like death penalty and some other kind of nonsense. And he said that he would
death penalty for doing roadworks during the day.
Well, maybe so. He was very radical back in the day, much more radical than he is now. And at the time, he was a very strong proponent of the death penalty. He just thought it was simpler. Right now, I would say he's changed. And again, it's laudable if you think about evidence and you think about something for a long time, you change your mind based on the evidence. He did change. But at the time he ran for governor, it was like death penalty, road work at night, and I'll resign. He was like, boom, boom, boom. That's all he wanted. He's a simple man. But it came down. He didn't want to tell people how much money he made. And he didn't know yet at the time that just not telling people was good enough. He didn't know what we know now. You just have to not tell people. So we've got a great post here. Andrew Yang, a presidential candidate, was responding to Ken Jeong from Community and some other stuff, Dr. Jeong. And he said, here's some video games that I took a bit too long playing. Andrew Yang's choices were Street Fighter 2, Rampage, Double Dragon, and Maze Craze, a very old Atari game. Nice reference there by Andrew Yang. I, of course, joined in, part of the Yang game. Here's 4 games that I liked. Legend of Zelda, both the original and all the others, really. Command and Conquer, which I would include like Warcraft 2, the earlier real-time strategy games, RTS. Tetris, I used the Game Boy version, thought it'd be fun. And Counter-Strike right here. But really, I mean Quake and Doom and Wolf and all those. Kind of just RTSs and first-person shooters just in general. But Maybe you have 4 games that you like. Go ahead and respond to this thread or write me on Twitter. Love to check out what games you spent too much time playing. Dan, any games you'd want to add here? Anything that you'd add?
I was just thinking, because I think Command and Conquer. I think I mentioned that as an old favorite the other day. Street Fighter 2 obviously is a complete classic. I just love that game so much. I lost hours and hours. A game that I played with a friend was, I think I mentioned also the other day, was Brutal Sports Series Football, where you were Vikings and you could like cut each other's heads off and score with it. Great game to grow up with as a 10-year-old or whatever, but it was all part of the fun. Dad didn't know how the floppy disks work, so I was able to get away with it. But and then the final game, either something like SimCity or SimCity 2000 or Transport Tycoon Deluxe. But SimCity 2000 I bought, and it was like I was like 12, 13 at the time or something, and I paid £50, which back then was mammoth amounts when that was 20 odd years ago, or nearly something like that, 20. Anyway, something like that. And I went to an arcade machine, and I actually went to play X-Men versus Street Fighter, the Neo Geo one, but it was called Sega Park. And I left the game like brand spanking new, £50, SimCity Deluxe. I that was like 10 cars worth of washing. I was furious, and it was gone. That was it. So and then I had to wait like 10 years to afford the damn thing again.
I remember SimCity 2000. That's where SimCity got a little too complicated. They included pipes and sewers. You had to hook up the water plants to every building, different levels and layers to it. It started to become a little bit like work. But that's the hard part of those games is that kind of balance between like building a railroad empire or being a professional railroad builder, where you're like, that's just work. And I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but at one point I wanted to show my Amazon wish list here because I requested a Apollo rocket that I both want to build and don't want to build because Lego is work at a certain point. So if someone bought it for me, I'd be happy but not happy because I have to build it on the air. So I was going to give people the chance to buy it so that they could doom me to build it. I don't know if I'm even going to mention it. It's not. People are full of hate. They don't want to see me build a Lego rocket right now, and that's fine. I would hate it anyway. It's awful. You have to like sort all. You have to look at all the pieces and like pick them out and like sort them, and it's basically like a big piece sorting exercise. Because I did that. I have it here. I could go get it, but I have the fantastic Lego Las Vegas. I think Jeremy. Shout out to Jeremy in the chat if he's still there, hanging on. I think Jeremy bought it for me, and it was super fun to build, but it was also super frustrating. Lego gets you right back to like. You're like, this is like computer programming, but worse. This is really bad. I don't really want Lego. Don't give me a Lego set. Shout out to Bitcoinal, the animated price chart that was made by our friend DJ Booth. You can check that out at bitcoinal.com, and it'll show you kind of the seasons of Bitcoin. So here's Bitcoinal. Let's take a look. Oh, it's a wintry season right now. The price of Bitcoin is down. Right here. Oh, neat. He made it a shovel. You can now shovel. That's pretty interesting. I don't know what the shovel does. Maybe he's been watching Mythic Quest. If you guys have watched it, it's kind of funny. It's on Apple TV, which again, no one in their right mind should have Apple. Don't sell Bitcoin. If you touch the HODL thing, it makes noise. Said he had another thing that makes noise, but I don't know where it is. In this amazing Mythic Quest thing that's on Apple TV, it's Mac from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's running a company that's basically making like World of Warcraft. And one of the items they make is the shovel. It's just funny. He's like, it's so you can dig stuff, and he's like, no, it's a weapon. Like you can smack people with this, and they end up making the shovel into like a more powerful weapon than the great sword or whatever. So it's funny to see a shovel here. On Bitcoinal. But yeah, check out Bitcoinal. Our friend DJ Booth is working on that. He's also working on a refactor of Tallycoin. I like Tallycoin, but I think it has too many features. It got a little out of control. Maybe if he makes a tighter version that's just a little simple, and maybe makes another version with just less features. I don't know. People want to fundraise on Bitcoin. You should use Tallycoin. Robert Reich, former Health and Human Service Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich writes, starting tomorrow, millions of Americans will lose their employer-based health care because they've lost their jobs in this pandemic. This is nuts. We must have universal health care, Medicare for all. Maybe after this nightmare is over, we'll get it. And Dan, I know there's good and bad things about the NIH, and I know healthcare, universal healthcare is good and bad. But if you lose your job, do you lose your healthcare in the United Kingdom?
I could have no job forever, I think, and still get healthcare. I think it is ultimately it's really good. We don't even have remotely the well, I say it's really good. At the end of the day, we pay for it, and we pay for the nose, arguably. But yeah, it's a good service. We don't have the worry of having to to save up for an operation or whatever. I mean, I've had loads. I've been under the knife, like not knife, for operations about at least 6-7 times, and never cost me a penny. Prescriptions cost money, but at the same time, if I'm totally honest, the NHS has almost killed me and various members of my family for incompetence, like unnecessarily number of times. And unfortunately, I had a sister that passed away because the doctor, when I was younger, refused to see her. It was on Christmas, Boxing Day. He was an NHS doctor and was telling us to go here and there, and it's not part of the service and whatever else. Anyway, so I don't have a grudge against them, even though it was categorically that doctor's fault and he's an asshole. But unfortunately, when it's in the system, when it's how it's laid out at the moment, there are going to be a lot of people that think that there's wasting money here, or there's people that do get bad service, and it's not always, and it's not I think at the moment, and this isn't a slagging off NHS. I had bad experiences, but you've got to look at it as these are people going in, risking their lives every day. These are the heroes. Like, these are the everyday heroes. Like, they're people that fair enough, they're paid or whatever, but that's irrelevant. Like, add risk of death to most job thing. These people are going in, they're helping people. They're over the UK, they've got no PPE or very little PPE because it was stolen, apparently. Joking, but it was actually stolen locally. But they've got and they've done a great job. Now, it's not them that I don't like as the NHS. I think it's like whatever is controlling the money, that means that, for example, the midwife had a Dyson £450 Dyson fan, and we weren't able to see the same midwife more than once. We had a different midwife every single time. And she also, the midwife, for example, forgot to reply to Carrie when Carrie, my girlfriend, said she was feeling extremely ill, and then we had to rush her to hospital that day, and we never actually got a response from the midwife. So it has its ups and it has its downs. But at the moment, ups, free healthcare, don't have to worry about the implications of corona from a health perspective. And yeah, they're smashing it. Like, they are literally smashing it. So absolute kudos to everyone working.
And I agree. There's going to be all these problems with a universal, if you're spending too much, you're spending too little, this thing's allowed, that's not allowed. Certain people are going to fall through the cracks. There's going to be individual situations that we're not happy about. But I would much rather be arguing about those problems and how to fix them than back here letting people lose their health care when they lose their jobs. It's an interruption of care. It's an interruption of coverage. If they need any medications, it's almost impossible to continue those medications. We do have a program here called COBRA. It sounds like a snake because it's a snake. And when you're unemployed and you're broke, that's when they say, if you want to keep your health care, you can keep paying. And they give you the COBRA option. And most people I know can't afford to keep paying COBRA out of their unemployment. It's a lot of money, and they end up losing their health care. So in a crisis like this, it just adds to our problem. And it also means, again, that I think we chose the wrong path. Denmark, other countries chose to keep people in their jobs. They gave money to the employers. They told the employers to keep the people hired and to pay them directly. So now you know where to go back to. You go back to your job afterwards. This would have also kept our healthcare system intact. Most people get healthcare through their employer. So by keeping those jobs, they would have kept their healthcare. Instead, we gave everyone over to the unemployment program, right? Everyone in the U.S. now is unemployed. They don't know where they're going to go back to, which is a nightmare if you think about every waiter in the world applying to a restaurant opening, which is pretty much what we're looking at. So we've also lost all of our healthcare. In addition to breaking up all these firms, breaking up all this knowledge, losing all this training, we've also lost the healthcare. So it's not a good look for the working people. Meanwhile, we've got good news. The NFL is scheduled to begin on time. Seems like nonsense, but in September, the NFL believes that they're going to have a normal 16-game schedule. They believe people are going to sit in those seats right next to each other at the football stadiums. I don't know that they're planning on social distancing or spreading out the seats or something like that. People are going to be all crammed right there in with each other again in September. So I'll be watching from home, but you guys can go to the game, have some fun. The CDC is advising everyone to wear a mask. They're still just thinking about it. Just maybe it's a good idea. And again, president could come in and say, hey, make them wear masks. Save those people's lives. Let them eat cake. Oh, that was somebody else. Oh, this is a bit of a problem. The Postal Service was not included in the $2 trillion stimulus package. It provides no funding for the Postal Service. This could lead to the idea that we could do vote by mail falls apart if we don't have the Postal Service. Pretty shocking thing here. I don't know why you wouldn't fund the Postal Service. Everyone's using it for business. They're still getting supplies shipped through it, maybe shipped through Amazon. But yes, a shocking admission here that the Postal Service may have to shutter by June, which would mean no vote by mail, which would increase the difficulties of having a U.S. election in November. So that's complicated. I hope we fund the post office. I hope we don't decide to not fund the post office so that we can not have an election. That'd be a bad look. Gavin Newsom is doing well with the crisis. According to Balaji, California has the scale of a nation state. If it's doing better or thinks it's doing better in controlling the virus than the rest of the country, it may put up quarantine borders, a green zone discouraging travel from red zones, like 16 other U.S. states have already done. And Balaji here again is on the absolute edge of this. He's on the tip of the sphere, right? And he's thinking about the future. And what Balaji's already been speculating on is a decentralized West. The idea that the United States could break down into individual states or into regions because of the failure in handling this crisis, and the idea that we might be better off alone. We might be better off on our own, or maybe as a Western bloc, maybe a Western bloc, an Eastern bloc, a Southern bloc, a Midwest bloc, a variety of blocks managing people instead.
I'm surprised that they didn't go for a blue zone with discouraging travel from the red zones to make it a bit more political.
No, I mean, green is always good. Green is good. Red is bad. Red is blood. In most models, red is a negative. It's the red team. It's the opposing force. As Balaji said, like I was saying that he says, the United States may devolve into 50 states. Is this a science fiction scenario? Yet the reason predicted something along these lines is because scale causes disalignment. It's easier to get 40 million people on the same page than 320 million. Again, Balaji just speaking the truth, talking about the future here. If you want to get the future, follow Balaji on Twitter. Check out Tur Demeester. He's got a headline here from Drudge Report. Not sure we ever thought we'd see headlines like this in the United States. I'll just read it to you. He's got a mask here, a USA mask, and he says, Feds project up to 240,000 dead. Pay slashed for ER docs, nurses fighting virus. Prisoners dig mass graves. It's not a good look for America. You don't really want to say like, hey, remember when we had so much success and so much winning that we had prisoners digging mass graves in America and we cut the pay for doctors and nurses and there were going to be 240,000 dead? And this was a good day. This is a good news day. It's a good day. Tom Hartman writes, a normal president would anguish over telling his nation that 200,000 must die because he listened to Fox News host and spent 2 months doing nothing when he could have been ordering test kits, ventilators, and personal protective equipment. For a sociopath, though, it's no problem. So it is important to see who has feelings here. I think those of us with feelings have a problem with 200,000 dead. Maybe sociopaths can celebrate it, right? It's pretty strange. We're working on tightening up electronics and consumer goods that are made abroad, but it turns out we never focused on who controls our drug supply. Ralph Nader has been bringing it to our attention that the United States is dependent on foreign countries to manufacture our drugs. So this is used to be a small problem, starting to be a big problem looking at the world going forward with the coronavirus. Rachel, she's a doctor in New York City, and she was just handed personal protective gear for her shift. As she says, the federal government has completely failed its healthcare workers. What did she get for protective gear? It's a New York Yankees rain poncho. It's adult. One size fits most. It's imprinted with a New York Yankees imprint, has an adjustable hood, and is recyclable. So just not very good protective gear if you work in a hospital. But again, I'm sure there's a reason that's okay. I'm sure that it's okay that lady there, that doctor, has to go into battle wearing a New York Yankees poncho. I'm sure that's fine. We've got updated cases from the Netherlands. It is not looking good in the Netherlands as well. We see a S-type curve of the exponential curve of the total confirmed cases, total confirmed deaths. Intensive beds are full. New cases every day has actually declined a little. New deaths looked like it was declining. Then we had a new number that was even worse. Looking at the beds, might have seen a decline here the change in the bed, but they say there's a delay in reporting on full counts. So not looking good in the Netherlands. And again, these numbers are probably representative of a week or two ago. So we're probably in worse conditions now. Meanwhile, back to Bitcoin for just a second. Plan B has once again said that we're at apparently the last blue dot. So this is the end of the stock to flow model. It either goes up and confirms the model, or it goes down and the model is not confirmed. But maybe it goes up again in the future and the model's still right. Who knows? These people and their models. But he's sticking with it. He says that based upon the scarcity, the price of Bitcoin will go up. General theory of stock to flow. Alistair Milne says he blames the Smurfs for spreading new cases in France. Turns out he's being serious. The France had a record-breaking Smurf party in March. During the coronavirus, they broke the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most Smurfs in one place and promptly spread the virus. Thousands of people dressed up as Smurfs on March 7th. The coronavirus was spreading. At the time, they said what everyone else has been saying, all the people who are in denial of the virus: we must not stop living. We figured that a bit of fun would do us all good in the moment. However, now the virus is spreading nonstop across France. There's no risk. We're Smurfs. One attendee told the AFP, yes, we're going to Smurferize the coronavirus. Didn't really work out that well. As of Wednesday, France had 1,784 cases and 33 deaths. Meanwhile, the Italian media at the time was not in favor of Smurferizing the coronavirus. They said that the rally was potentially a very dangerous viral bomb. A second newspaper said that the Saturday's gathering was an irresponsible move that put people at a heightened risk of contracting the COVID-19 virus. So much for France. At least we got to be Smurfs, right?
Am I right in thinking that there's only one female Smurf in the whole Smurf Academy?
That's a complex Smurf issue. Smurfette does seem to be the only female Smurf.
It's like a queen bee sort of thing, like the queen alien who
the question
pops
is,
out the eggs or something.
Does Papa Smurf have prima noctre or not? That's what you really want to know. The stockpile of U.S. manufacturer ventilators were sold overseas. Oh, well. Whoops. And again, all of this is going to come back. It's going to be interconnected in that big narrative that we read about when we try to figure out what happened. And again, regardless of your political party, we need to know what happened so we can stop it from happening again. Clearly, we didn't respond to this properly. There was a better way. And the natural, pragmatic thing to do is to find that better way and to improve. I like this one here. Carl says, one example of effective coronavirus response was when Gal Gadot did that stupid Imagine shit, and we all said, fuck you. I'd like to think it stopped a lot of other stupid celebrity shit and should be studied by future scientists. I agree with that. They shut that Imagine shit down right away. Balaji says the virus is an asymmetric threat powerful enough to take down a U.S. aircraft carrier, and that World War I started with cavalry and ended with mechanized warfare. If large groups of human troops are now a vulnerability, perhaps this begins a full shift to drone war. Once again, Balaji is skating to where the puck will be, not to where the puck was. Balaji is looking at the future here. As they say that the warship, the captain of an aircraft carrier, has pleaded with the Pentagon for help as the coronavirus spreads above the ship, all over the ship. So not a good sign. Here's the letter from the commander. Balaji says it's very well written. Clearly someone, not him, maybe not him, made bad decisions to cause the mess, but he clearly lays out the options and understands data. Another data point for the military having the most competent folks in government. And remember, we're looking for competence. Bitcoin Rat has retired. Oh, man, I should see if he's around here, see if he'll join the show. But Bitcoin Rat has retired. He'd like to thank everyone for his 7 years in Bitcoin. It's been incredibly rewarding. But now he's going to focus on music. He's focusing on music. He's going to release some music albums here. I hope he'll announce them on the Bitcoin Rat Twitter account. Shout out to all the little Bitcoin rats that traveled all around the world, spreading the word about Bitcoin. Very cool. Congratulations to Bitcoin Rat on the completion of his project, and I hope the music goes well.
Yeah, I think I was hoping that we were going to do one last performance at CoinFest because he couldn't make it last year. I think he his family. Oh, there you go. Actually, I'm just reading it now. His mother wasn't too well, so just reading that she's passed away. So sorry to hear that, John. If you're watching. But please, I'm going to get in touch, John, if you're watching, and we'll do something for the CoinFest that's in November. Because although you're out of Bitcoin, you said you're in music, and so I think we need a little reunion. I think to get everyone through the quarantine.
Maybe you could be on one of his tracks. It could be like featuring Crypto Raptor or something.
I did. Yeah. Together. He wrote me an intro.
That'd be good.
Really good. Yeah. We just need to record it.
All right. We're still trying to fight our way through the news. Like I said, April Fool's jokes are not funny. I knew this going into today, but apparently this K-pop star didn't. South Korean media is reacting angrily to Kim Jae-joon's Instagram post saying that he had caught the coronavirus. He said it was an April Fool's joke. Not funny. Like he's a pop star, so it's like if Bob Dylan had this and was just joking about it. Not funny. Here's what happened in the Czech Republic after they imposed mandatory mask wearing on March 18th. The daily increase in cases has dropped over 20% before the mask for all rule to just 6%. So it does seem, once again, every single piece of evidence we look at, masks work. We should be wearing masks. I'm not sure why we're not. Florida COVID cases.
Who could we blame for that? I wonder who. I know Trump as well, but it really does. I know I'm picking on this, but it really does shock me that these are people in a position of authority. I mean, regardless of whether you see Trump or whoever your local leader is, you'd imagine that the people who are representing humans in the World Health Organization would have all the facts and be acting on this the most logically. And from what we've seen, it's bordering criminal. But we'll wait and see. I think when the dust settles, I'd like to see a lot of heads roll for their incompetence during this.
Well, it's also time for everyone else to step up. The rest of the hospitals, the rest of the facilities, to just say, hey, masks are effective. There's no reason for anybody to not be saying masks are effective. You could protect more people if you said they should wear a mask. Now, I agree. If they're trying to keep them for the hospitals, maybe they feel that they can't say that. But even then, if that was the plan, we're well past that now. We're into the open where people just need to know the facts. And the facts are a mask is better than no mask. A good mask is the best, but no mask at all, you're just breathing raw air.
Well, oh
boy.
Cooler.
They hung up.
Oh. Yeah, the funny thing is, the reasons that I've heard from people that have said, right, okay, I don't believe I need to wear a mask, or I don't think it's effective, and their logic from their sources, wherever they are that the reason is because if the mask isn't to the right, micrometer, nanometer, whatever filtration level, then it won't catch everything. And two is that when people wear the mask, even if it's a good quality mask and it's legit and shit, they end up pulling it down, touching their face, and blah blah blah. Like, that's not the point. The point is the mask works. Idiot doesn't work. Mask work. Idiot not work. That's like saying, oh, I don't know, like don't. Cars are meant to drive into walls. No, the car's not meant to drive into a wall. You drive the car right, you won't crash into a wall. That's the whole point of it. There's no point. You wouldn't say, hey, we shouldn't use cars because they go into walls. Like, no, idiots go into walls. Idiots don't use masks. And not idiots, people make mistakes, whatever. But the fact is, mask effective, human not.
It's also clear that just better than nothing. Anything's better than nothing. I mean, nobody's going to say it's 100% or whatever, but it's better than nothing. We've got more news from Florida. We're still fighting our way through the news here. Florida COVID-19 cases surged to nearly 7,000, while the governor continues to resist statewide restrictions such as a closure. This has been really shocking to see happening in Florida. As many people know, a lot of people retire down in Florida. It's a very big old folks population. They're especially at risk from this virus. But on the other hand, Florida is a tourist state. Florida has the beaches. Florida has the vacationers. He's probably much like the people in Jaws, torn between reopening the beaches or protecting people against a shark. And he's chosen to reopen the beaches. So, again, this is just going to be studied. We're going to find out later. I don't have to write the book for you now. But everyone in Florida is going to come out. We're all going to write, and we're going to find out what DeSantis and these other people were saying behind the scenes. And it's a bad look. It's a bad look as cases surge to 7,000. We're keeping an eye on Florida, expecting a lot. What did China do to beat the coronavirus? Experts say America couldn't handle it. And this is a pretty big, important thing. If we can't do what they did, that's the only model we know of right now, is the Chinese model and the South Korean model were both successful in defeating this virus. So if we can't do that, maybe we can't beat the virus. And if we can't beat the virus, we're talking about all kinds of other things, aren't we? Or you're talking about a breakdown of society, right? It's getting bigger and bigger, the problems. So I don't know. I guess the Beijing quarantine, they were talking about how they had to stay inside no matter what. They couldn't walk outside at all. They had to train their dogs to go to the bathroom inside. That sucks. They couldn't go out to get food or anything like that. I suppose they had maybe access to National Guard or military type people that could bring you food. Again, probably MREs, not good food. But still, food is food. But yes, maybe America couldn't handle it. I don't know. I think we should try. I don't think we should just assume we can't handle it and not try. That's pretty defeatist.
Yes. What's that saying? It's better than to have done and something about trying and then to have not tried at all. Something about love that never works out. That's it. Better to have done something and to have regretted it than to have never done it at all.
Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Yeah. You're right on there. You were dancing around it. You got it. Oh, here we go. We made it.
I'm almost there.
We made it to XKCD. Oh, how lucky we are. What a beautiful April Fool's Day that we get to enjoy a new XKCD comic strip Let's make it nice and big. Let's read it. So here we go. No, I'm even going to go full screen. Who wants to look at me when we can look at fantastic comic strips from XKCD? XKCD.com. Go there. Buy his book. I have his book. I have 2 of his books. I have Thing Explainer and I have the XKCD comic strips. But here it is. It's a virus, and he's talking to some other viruses and some other cells and stuff. So the virus says, I'm worried about humans developing resistance to us using pasta. Then he continues, the human immune system is a nightmare. It's the worst. It's the scariest thing in the universe. We can only survive by staying ahead of it. Keep jumping from person to person. Keep mutating and evolving. But now, humans are adapting too fast. This time, we really thought we had them. One of us got good at transmission through everyday contact. And you can see he's drawn the coronavirus here, and the people are coughing and shaking hands, and there's all these dots spreading around them. And as the virus continues, it was great. We were tearing through lungs, spreading like wildfire. Hooray! I hate lungs. Then, all of a sudden, humans everywhere just stopped. They stopped working. They stopped seeing friends. Suddenly, humans have become dead ends. We try to jump from one to the next, but there's no one to jump through. We're trapped in there with those ghastly immune systems. And the immune systems are saying things like, it's hug time. Come here for a hug. And they're all surrounding the coronavirus. And then the virus continues. Even if we win a fight, there's nowhere to go. By staying inside, humans have become resistant. Humans started looking at their phones, talking, writing words, and making signs. A human named Gloria Gaynor filmed herself singing at her bathroom sink, and they bought lots of pasta. Then, around the world, they all went home and started washing their hands. They saw what we were doing, and they changed their behavior to stop us. And then the virus says, brains are the worst. It's not over, right? They can't sustain this. They must be bored and tired. Will they give up? And the virus says, I don't know. They seem determined to protect each other. And they have a lot of pasta. So there you go. That's how we can defeat the coronavirus with pasta. Thanks to XKCD. It's a really good idea, I think, to personify the viruses and these little characters so you can understand what the virus's goals are. And that, the virus doesn't care about your politics or anything like that. It cares about mutating, cares about eating you, right? It cares about stopping this. But by staying home and washing our hands and not being in contact with other people, we can stop the virus. We can win against the virus.
Perhaps this goes deeper than we originally thought. And actually, they're talking about not pasta, but we'll be saved by, the god, the pastafarian god.
The flying spaghetti monster.
Yes, the flying spaghetti monster. His noodly appendage. Maybe it's coming from that angle. I don't know.
It is the internet. There's always there's always a noodly appendage in there somewhere for sure. So you can't deny that. Well, let's see. I think we're getting close to the top. I think we're getting almost out of here. Here's another palate cleanser for those of you who have hung on. And thanks to everybody who gave a thumbs up to our second version here. We had a break. The internet broke, so we had to abandon the first hangout. But I've been watching the numbers a little bit. Looks like we were around 30 people watching us. Then we're at 40. Now we're back up to 50. So thanks again, everyone, just stopping through, checking this out. We do these shows all the time. You can subscribe down below, hit the bell for notifications. But here's a little bit more of the best of the British Museum. You can see some Greek statues here. Obviously, an Egyptian. It's a mummy. It's in a sarcophagus. It's from Egypt. And really nice picture here. I like that one. She's on the staircase. Got some good lighting. Then we went on the adventure to find the statue. We searched all over Greece and the British Museum, and then we found the statues. So that was a nice distraction, right? We're trying to help your mind get through this by doing some distraction posts every once in a while. But again, our distractions are clearly labeled as distractions. We're not saying they're not distractions. The Dow Jones went down 3% at open. Citigroup was down. Banks were down. We've got some creepy stuff. Everyone likes creepy things. So According to Michael Codre, we don't know much about this, but there's a story from Italian state media in 2015. This story highlighted how China was conducting biological experiments with a coronavirus derived from bats and mice, modifying it with surface proteins to give it an ability to infect human respiratory cells. That's interesting. And again, this could be completely fake. I'm not sure. But it says the 2015 story, a broadcast of Italian translated. They were worried about why they were doing this. According to a section of the scientific community, it is in fact not dangerous. The probability that the virus may pass to our species was insignificant compared to the potential benefits of the virus, an argument that many other experts rejected. First, because the relationship between risk and benefit is difficult to evaluate, and second, because especially in these times, it is more prudent to not put into circulation an organism that can escape or be removed from the control of laboratories. So, I don't know, it sounds a little too good to be true, a little too tight, like this could be a put-up job. But if this is a story from 2015 Italian state media warning about the coronavirus, it seems a little bit on the nose. I don't know. What do you think, Dan? We were trying to give a grain of salt here. It's interesting, but it just seems a little too on the nose.
Yeah. I'm just really confused by the term, the benefit to having the virus. You said that
they didn't go into more detail, but I assume it would be things like previously we've modified viruses to fight other viruses. Maybe if they really understood this virus, they could use it. They could use it to kill the AIDS virus. You know, maybe this kind of like part of the way that the virus is spreading, we could take out and we could put in some other thing, and then pretty soon maybe we have a vaccine that spreads like this. You know, maybe we make a positive organism that's now out there spreading. I think that's what they would say. I don't know if they're right. It's the same thing as like building a nuclear bomb. Like on one side, you get a nuclear bomb, obviously an offensive weapon. On the other side, you get nuclear power. You know, you get all these other potential spin-offs. You get improvements in computer control systems, all kinds of stuff like that. Video cameras, monitoring, all the kind of things that you need. Geiger counters. All of those are improved. You know, NASA, we went to space. We came back with Velcro and fire retardant suits.
Upside down pens? Oh, no.
Those are good too. But the fire retardant suits have really saved a lot of lives and changed the world of firefighting forever. And that's a direct link to NASA. Same thing. Velcro is pretty useful too. It's a lot harder to quantify than a firefighting suit. But Velcro.
So I suppose one benefit could possibly be, long shot. One benefit could be, I don't know, like bringing the rest of the world to its knees, whilst you're able to carry on pretty quickly.
No, as a theory. They weren't talking about benefits to spreading the virus. They were.
I'm just fishing for.
Well, it's already conspiracy theory enough. Like I already don't believe this article, so I don't need more nonsense. But we've got more. If you think that's bad, look into this. And we've got the next article where they say a Chinese researcher was escorted from an infectious disease lab, admits an RCMP investigation as to what's been going on in that laboratory. So going to this, this gets a little creepier right here. They say it's a policy breach, but there's no risk to the public. And this is a level 4 virology lab, similar to the kind they have in Wuhan, China. Except this one here, if we can get to the picture, is in Winnipeg. So what's creepy about this is that this story is starting to line up with the conspiracy theory video, which again may be true or maybe not be true. It's not a fair term, but you know what I'm talking about. The conspiracy theory that I've heard, which again may be true, may not be true, allegedly, is that this lab right here in Winnipeg may have been where it came from, and it may have been taken from here to Wuhan. And again, no actual evidence on this. I've just heard it, which is how some other people do their business. But something to just keep in the back of your mind and to look for more information on. Let's try to keep connecting these together. Let's find some better information, or let's find some information that disproves this. Right? Let's get down to it. But yeah, that's our conspiracy look for the day. So
one more, very quickly. Don't know if I'll find the link maybe to tomorrow. have a read if you've seen it or whatever, or mention the chat. But the one that I saw that was quite interesting. Again, it's more interesting when people come up with these conspiracies. That they look and find other articles that are like old and definite articles rather than kind of make stuff up or screenshots, so that when you try and do your own like internet hero research, you go back and you're actually like, oh shit, that's an article from us on the Internet Archive. That's using that as a reference point. So one of them was that, and obviously this is massively out there, but a nanotech engineer, bioengineer or whatever, was sacked off from like Wuhan lab. Is a US bioengineer, nanotech engineer, sacked off from the Wuhan lab. But I believe there was some sort of nefariousness going on. He did some, not as in from a money perspective, like from intellectual property, not from he had the virus. But what they're trying to say is that yeah, basically he's involved and they can turn the virus off with nano stuff.
Looks like we might have a phone call here. Dan, do you want to take a phone call?
Hello there.
All right, just a sec. Let me turn the audio on. Okay, caller, you're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Moscow. My name is Paul. What's up, Tom?
Hey, how's it going? Good to hear from you again, Paul. I know situation has changed in Moscow. We saw the president out there in a full plastic bodysuit with a giant breather on, and a little bit after that, they actually declared it a problem. So are you quarantined? Are you stuck inside? What's your situation there in Moscow?
So the current mode in Moscow is that people are required to be in self-isolation mode. So not quarantine, but self-isolation. Currently, it's not really enforced, but there is some information that tomorrow there's going to be roadblocks and people are not going to be allowed to go out anywhere. They have a special permit, which will be contained within a QR code. For which a system is already designed to be implemented. Although the Russian government is very inefficient and any software projects that they ever built are very faulty and it takes a huge amount of time for them to build them. So I assume that probably if they implement this system, it's not going to work right away and it's going to be lots of troubles with it, most likely. And yeah, basically you're going to need permits to go anywhere. Like people who go to work will need permits from their job to go to work. They will have the address of their job and you can only drive to that address and from that address back home. That's how it's going to be. But for now, I just moved to my village today from Moscow to outside of Moscow. And there were no roadblocks, no police cars. Everything seemed as usual, just maybe fewer cars on the street. And it's also been quite cold recently, so I guess people are not going out as much because 2 days ago everyone was going out and people were having fun and it was just like a holiday or something.
Has it changed? Are people taking it seriously? Do you believe that they'll stay inside voluntarily?
I think people, I'm not too sure. I know different people do different things. For example, I know people who have been self-isolating in Moscow for 3 weeks already, and I'm kind of one of them, sort of. My family wasn't self-isolating, but I was trying to, and I was even trying to self-isolate from them. But it might not have worked because in close proximity, it's a little bit harder, especially with cooking and that kind of stuff. But in terms of what everyone else is thinking, I think people probably are not taking it very seriously mostly. Maybe 10% of it, or 20% of the population are preparing for some sort of potentially social unrest from this situation in midterm. But I don't think too many people in Russia are seriously concerned with the virus itself.
Do you think it would be easier for Putin to convince if he says, go for the mask, mandatory mask wearing? Do you think it would be easier from a cultural perspective for Russian residents to be like, yeah, cool, I understand? Because in the UK, I think that's going to go down like a ton of bricks, even when they do announce it. But I'd imagine Russia would listen a bit more.
Yeah. So the thing with masks is that we don't have any N95 masks available. All of them were bought a long time ago off the shelf, and the only masks that people have available to them are the surgical masks, which are, as far as I understand, completely useless. It might be useful for an infected patient a little bit, although still the virus is going to be escaping. But yeah, I don't think those masks are very useful or useful at all. And so if people aren't wearing them, I don't blame them really.
Well, we've heard varying information about the masks. While they're certainly not 100% effective, it does seem like wearing a mask is more than nothing. We don't know why this information seems like it's been forgotten. Dan has this picture on. It's the 1918 epidemic in the United States, and they're all wearing masks. In Japan and South Korea, many of these other countries, they often wear masks when they're sick just normally. But yeah, it does seem like it's more effective than nothing. So I don't know how much that helps. Certainly, you're not bulletproof, but maybe if you just tell people, spread the word, just kind of get it out there, it's better than nothing. Even a scarf or a T-shirt or something, just less microbes in, less microbes out.
Yes, it's true. It's also going to limit the amount you are exposed to bacteria, because you can also have bacterial infection on top of the coronavirus, and you can actually have several different versions of coronavirus. For example, the flu virus and the SARS-CoV-19. So yeah, it's kind of complicated, and the better you protect yourself, the better it will be for you. And in terms of the surgical masks, I think they have some, as far as I understand, they have some usefulness in terms of protecting others, mostly from a person who is infected. It might be a little bit useful in filtering the air for the person who is wearing it as well, but not as much. The N95 masks are designed for that. I personally wear a respirator, half face respirator, manufactured by 3M, and it has filters on it, proper filters. It's P3. It's sort of like N95 mask, but a little bit better. And yeah, in terms of how people look at you, a week ago, people were looking at me like I'm completely out of my mind. But right now, actually, nobody notices that I'm wearing it. So yeah, I think definitely people's mindsets are changing, but I think people are more concerned about their jobs and the potential social unrest that might unfold if this situation continues for more than a couple or say a month or two.
It's really interesting to watch this awareness shift in real time. Like you're saying, a week ago, you were a freak out there. Now, no one even notices. Everyone's doing the same thing. So it's pretty amazing to go over one of those points and then just to see the whole window shift of what's acceptable, right?
Yes, indeed. And I was just thinking about it today. And yes, the minds of the population are shifting, and we were probably, I assume you and I were slightly earlier in terms of realizing how serious this situation might get. And yeah, thankfully we took extra precautions, and hopefully we are going to have some sort of benefit from our investigation into this situation early on.
I hope so. I think we will. And stay safe out there in Moscow, and definitely give us a call in the future. Keep updating us about your situation and just sharing the knowledge with others. Yeah.
Yeah, take care.
All right, thanks so much. And if you'd like to call now, we're going to open up for some other phone calls. If you guys would like, you could call us now at 1-518-600-1949. Push 001 if you're international. Or you can call us on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. It's also right there at the bottom of the screen if you need to write it down. But you can go ahead and call in. We're still trying to get to the end of the news. There was another big Trump press conference. Hopefully, maybe I won't watch the one today. Maybe we'll just ignore it. But unfortunately, he keeps saying all these quotes that I feel really explain him and his character and really helping us understand this failure of response and why we can't seem to get over this failure and get on to the next thing. And we're just stuck with it. A couple more quotes from Twitter. Donald Trump says 100,000 American deaths would be a good job, a very good job. That's 30 9/11s or 25,000 Benghazis. So it does really put it on the scale there. We're going to lose a lot of people. I hope not. Plan B is back again, talking about the time series model and the stock to flow model. Basically, there's going to be a smaller supply of Bitcoin, and that theoretically makes Bitcoin more valuable. It's pretty simple. Balaji says it looks like the United States response is starting to be coordinated at the state rather than the national level. Balaji says that every governor could then ask for a tech CTO, a biotech CSO, a chief medical officer to help them coordinate software tests, drugs, vaccines, and medical treatment, respectively. It's pretty strange here. Again, he's essentially suggesting that we would need 50 tech CEOs, 50 biotech CSOs, 50 chief medical officers. I'm not sure where we're going to get all these professionals. Seems like if we had one really good tech CEO, they could work it from a national level. But again, we are where we are, and this is good advice for what we've got going, which is a return to the states. Never happened, really, except in the Civil War, and the side that was in favor of that actually lost. So, I don't know. I thought we were a union. I thought that's what Lincoln was talking about. Oh, well. Not So Fast writes in. He's got a strong counterpoint here. He says, there is no value in recognizing or praising CZ's leveraging of dishonesty and legacy financial systems' power to co-opt and enslave crypto in its cradle. No value except to CZ himself, that is. He's the new boss, same as the old boss. And what do you think, Dan, about what Not So Fast is speculating about here? What he's saying is that Binance and CZ using dishonesty in the legacy financial system to enslave crypto, the way that they bought CoinMarketCap the other day, the way that they announced mining today. It seems like every kind of aspect of crypto could be taken over by this exchange that is using the legacy system, right? They're using it. They're part of this and part of that. What do you think, Dan? I think it's pretty bold to go after Binance and CZ. They're in a pretty strong position here. So I enjoy seeing a little bit of questioning of the power. This is a risk, but I like this risk. I think this is a good risk.
Well, I think the fact is that anyone who's big, or any company that's big in crypto are ultimately going to be close to regulators, to lawmakers, etc. And unfortunately, that system's corrupt as it is. So we just got to try and hope that CZ doesn't kind of pal up and rub shoulders with nasty people from the existing shitty financial system, and bring it over into crypto. But annoyingly, the fact is, and I don't like this, but realistically, for Bitcoin to have a chance, people are going to want to regulate it. It will survive without it, but it's going to be regulated, and that's why we have Brian Armstrong and CZ cozying up with regulators, because unfortunately, if you run a big company that's Bitcoin, you've got to be seen to be legit and at least abiding by their rules. So I just don't think it would be feasible for Bitcoin to have got this far with, if Brian Armstrong and CZ and, whoever else. I'm not saying it's good what, cozying up with regulators, but if they'd have just been like, yeah, fuck you, regulators, we'll do what we want, Bitcoin everywhere, I think there would be more issues. So, but I'm not saying it's a good thing, it's bad. Regulation is bad. And what really makes me laugh, just segueing or segwitting, it makes me giggle, the fact that they're like, well, there's in this side countries around the world, they're reducing regulation. We're reducing regulation. We're reducing red tape so that we can build this. Cool. Why, if it's not that much of a problem, then why do we have all that red tape and regulation in the first place? What's the point? And like is it entropy? Is it, the universe started off and it's all nice and chaotic, and it was not unchaotic and all in order and infinitesimally small and blah blah. And then something like this happened, the Big Bang. This is from the CERN, and exponential chaos just ensued. And I actually think that society is kind of moving that way. If you think about how much of a cluster thing that your head is in now, with everything that goes on compared to what it was like 20 years ago, everything is getting infinitely intricate. You're having not just a normal service, you've now got services on top of services on top of services, rather than going the simplified way, rather than going, right, let's go back to basics, let's go back to small, what single-use things, or trying to economize in certain areas by not having 50 different ways of delivering internet. Have one, make it really efficient. And I think as part of that entropy, there's just going to be regulation is just going to keep on getting, in trees. It's going to keep on forking off. People have to find themselves jobs. They've got to find out there's not just AML. There's going to be AML 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because there's always got to be something that you could do, because otherwise I wouldn't have a job if I didn't try and enforce these. I don't know. So that was a massive waffle, but I think ultimately, you can't escape them, the regulators. If they want to be taken seriously, you've got to speak to them. You've got to, I don't know.
It's been really interesting to watch this Binance thing develop. I remember when it was an ICO to launch an exchange, and a little bit unfairly of me, I assumed that all ICOs were frauds and fakes and so on. But then it seems like they built a really legit exchange. Then it seems like they built an iPhone app, and they built more apps and more ways to use their exchange, and they took up most of the exchange traffic in Bitcoin now. It's pretty much Coinbase and Binance. Maybe Kraken in there a little bit at number 3, Gemini, some of these other larger platforms. But they expanded out of nothing. And then the Malta situation, that looked like it was trouble for them. They were locked in this country. Then they decided to move. Then they moved to Malta. Now it seems like they didn't even officially move to Malta. They might have just decentralized themselves, which is a whole new good, bad thing, right? It's good and it's bad. You can't regulate them. And then now they're buying CoinMarketCap. They're seeming to become more and more respectable and legitimate. They're a major player in all of these things, and now they're doing mining. So it is really interesting to see it go from pretty much nothing to an incredible something. It's been a very fast story. They've grown quickly. CZ seems like a very competent administrator, a good businessman, moving this forward. I still kind of wonder, at some day, do they pull out the rug from everyone? But the reality is, I think there's more money to be made in trading fees, and that they're just going to stick it in there to get those trading fees, and they're going to go long with being the best possible exchange. So they look pretty good. I agree. It's time to see them as a power broker and to see them as a major player, and to keep an eye on them. Like talked about yesterday with the CoinMarketCap, this is essentially access to CoinMarketCap now goes through Binance. If you want your altcoin on CoinMarketCap, you got to go through Binance. So this is a big position for them until everyone stops using CoinMarketCap. But like they said, there's 6 other things. Those could all be bought up. Coinbase could be seeing about buying one of these information services tomorrow. Kraken as well. They've missed the boat here. Binance got out ahead of them again. So again, shout out. CZ's killing it.
This really is, though, a great opportunity if anyone's, and I'd actually be up for working on it. I'm a data guy, ex ClickView developer, and so on and so forth, and actually started building a load of ClickView reports over the top of the API data from CoinMarketCap, because at the time I thought this site is incredibly useful. It's very basic, very simple. It has stats, but I'd like to see more behind those stats. I want charts. I want to be able to interrogate the data. And so I started building something, but as usual, as everything else that happened, especially in 2013, 2014, I did nothing. So now is a great opportunity and I'd be willing to work with someone to build a decentralized, as much as possible, an open source, CoinMarketCap. Go. We'll have the world behind us, I think, because I don't think that Binance taking on CoinMarketCap is going to go down well in most of the world.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I think we're going to head towards the end of the news. I think we're going to make it to the top. There's only a couple more articles. Kara Swisher wrote an opinion piece about how her mother is at risk of dying from infection, but her mother was not concerned about dying from infection because her primary source of news was Fox. And she talked about how her mother was just saying it was a flu and that it was a hoax by the Democrats and that Joe Biden was involved. And Cara had to say, your daughter, she works in media too, and those are all Fox News lies. But so this is really a big deal. This is something they're going to talk about a lot more. These people are going to be sued, and their emails and text messages will be exposed. So let's keep an eye on that. Jason Stark just flipped over a calendar in his office to April and realized that we're looking at an April with no baseball. So here's your fact of the day. What was the last year when there were no Major League Baseball games played on any day in April? It was 1883. So 1883. Long time, 140, maybe more, 140 years ago. Major retailers have only opened 5 drive-through testing locations. It's almost as if you can't just count on them to do things. You have to compel them to do things. It's almost like there's a reason we have the Defense Production Bill and other bills like that, so that the national government can compel retailers like CVS, who should be helping out with testing, into opening more than 5 locations nationwide. That's what you'd think. Check it out. I made some tea this morning. It was so black and dark. I had to mix a lot of milk in, and I'm not going to be doubling down on black tea. It's just too strong. So that's about it. We made it through the news. We made it to the end. We had a phone call. We had the exciting break in the middle. The chat totally went off course. Chat is in its own world now. You guys do what you want to do. Talk about what you want to talk about. We're just going to keep going. Yes, I wish we could talk about Bitcoin. I wish we didn't have to talk about the coronavirus that's going to kill 100,000 to 200,000 people. But as you can see, historically, that might be kind of important. Might be kind of a thing that we're living through that historians would be interested in. So it's kind of worth talking about. It's cool if you don't want to agree with me on politics and that kind of thing. That's fair. I'm just presenting what I see, my opinion, based upon facts and news as best I can.
The world would be boring if everyone agreed on everything, especially politics. So
I'm getting so excited, I'm spitting on my jacket or something. It's exciting news. Droplets. I should have a mask on to protect you, because obviously the droplets could go through the screen here. Dan, you're at risk. Everyone's at risk.
That reminds me of Tory Boy from Harry Enfield and Chums, and he was literally, my name is Tory Boy, and he is a very spitty type person. Anyway, I must go as well, because I've
all right.
Time moves on.
In closing, Dan, go ahead. What are you going to say in closing? Tell the people some good news. Here we go.
In closing, so I've got some good news. So I haven't quite organised this yet, but bear with me a second. But the good news about coronavirus is that I have been able to get some stuff done, and one of those things is finding the Bitcoin flag, which disappeared. So if everyone remembers from last year, I think it was last year, Tom and I got escorted off of Stonehenge for flying a flag, essentially, because apparently you can't fly flags at Stonehenge. Apparently I'm going to pick, because of the fact that I've just my English heritage, my English heritage pass has just renewed, or a while back, just before everything kicked off, of course. Like, of course, when I just renewed my priority pass for the next year. So I won't be going to many airports. But anyway, so I'm going to do a poll. And I'm going to pick 4 locations around, locations around the south or around England, and I'll do a vote, and then a poll, and whichever place wins the poll, I will do my utmost to commandeer the castle and fly the Bitcoin flag. And I'll get. It may not be London Bridge in that level. It may be more localized castles that have got a bit more leniency, but I will try. So if you're interested, probably not. But just if you see me on Twitter, Cryptopoly, watch out for a Bitcoin flag poll coming your way.
That sounds great. And we had a fun time at Stonehenge, even though they treated us like criminals and such. And again, fair deal to Stonehenge. They don't know what the Bitcoin symbol is. This could mean something horrible. Like for all they know, we're waving a terrible flag. And just in general, it was really interesting to see how sensitive people are about flags, and that flags are different than other things. A flag means a lot more. And so, yeah, they were very serious about us in Stonehenge. But if you search out there on Google, you can find the video of Dan and I and Ben at Stonehenge getting told to leave pretty much. But still a nice day, still nice to visit Stonehenge, and epic, once in a lifetime. I got the book. So you know how it is. But thanks to everybody for joining us. Agree or disagree. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. And thanks to Paul for calling in. Sorry we didn't get a chance for more calls. Maybe tomorrow we'll just say no Trump press conference. We're just going to go to calls. Maybe that'll mean more. Maybe that'll mean more calls. But again, this is big. This is big on you guys. You guys actually have to call in if we're gonna. We'll give you the show. We got time. We got You can say whatever you want. I'm gonna respond to it. Sure. But I'm gonna give you a chance to talk. And it'll be fun. We'll do some more calls tomorrow. Of course, I can't guarantee we won't cover the press conference. You might say something really insane then. But hopefully the press conference will just be a normal thing, and we won't have to talk so much. And maybe we could skip more of the news and stuff. But I don't know. It seems important to cover it all, and just to get it all out there on the thing, and then we can think about it and decide later if this was worth it or not worth it, and all those kind of things. So.
And okay, how about this? We can do a bit of I'll come up with some sort of bingo system where you have to drink every time Tom or I say something like Trump. Or,
they're going to have to work on that on their own. So that's something the audience can work on.
If you get four in a line, then you've your phone up after you've had all your shots.
I think these people should just phone up anyway. I don't think there's any reason not to phone up and share your opinions. You don't have to win a bingo card. But
you don't need Dutch courage.
We'll be back again tomorrow with another episode, so be sure to subscribe down below. Hit that bell for notifications. And until next time, bye-bye.